Welcome to our webinar, Streamlining Project Management in Microsoft Teams with AI and OnePlan. If you enjoyed this topic, please explore our YouTube channel for more.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. The prevalent use of Microsoft Teams in the marketplace and the ongoing needs for more collaborative, streamlined project management is out there. Now we've layered in the advent of AI and the maturing nature of that being used within organizations. And then the advanced needs that people may have for more true portfolio management capabilities really brings in the specter of something like OnePlan in order to round things out and get a fully capable, full-featured set of solutions in place to allow you to work with things comprehensively. So with that, let me just go into a few topics in advance of this. And by no means is this exhaustive, but some current trends in project and work management might include the following. Digital transformation and the business transformation that goes around with that. It's shaping a new culture of work within organizations. We're fundamentally transforming a lot of ways we do businesses, the way we go to market, the way we reach our customers, et cetera. And it requires a lot of things on the back end within our organizations to support that. Our work is now happening everywhere, and we need transparency to get the big picture, meaning everything is distributed. And, from a variety of sources, whether it be Microsoft's surveys themselves, some analyst stuff, and just a blend of those things, in general, roughly they say 50% of companies will integrate IT PMOs into enterprise PMO hubs within their organization, and that 80% of organizations will implement an ePMO somewhere in this decade. So it's a pretty significant move in order to take care of the big picture trend as we see it here. And also with the advent of cloud tools and how easy it is to spin them up, teams can choose their own tools so they can work how they want in their organizations. And some of the stats that we've seen out there is, over 70% of companies use agile methods for managing projects, at least somewhere within their organization. But 69% still use predictive or more waterfall project management techniques, meaning there's a blend of both needs out there that supports the need maybe for using different tools for different things. And modern workers want simple visual tools that help them start fast. We have an increasingly younger workforce, right? And some of the estimates say that 50% of the workforce was comprised of millennials as early as 2020. And at some point in this decade, we're going to pass 75% of that, meaning a younger workforce wants more of the app culture, the things that they're used to seeing on their phones and tablets, and making it easier for them to get going. And then our key processes now span the enterprise, especially when we get initiatives like these digital transformations that go cross-functional across all parts of the organization and business units. These processes span the enterprise, and we need to adapt and automate tools and connect these things in a way so that we can make them manageable and doable. So we found that 79% of companies need cross-functional collaboration beyond what they have today to improve that aspect of things, and that there's the possibility with no code, low code, and pre-built connectors technologies out there, of which OnePlan has some. Large organizations will start to enable non-IT staff to perform, at least simple integrations in this decade without the use of IT or developers. Pretty interesting stuff. Now, some current challenges around all this distributed work and all these things happening everywhere is, just the reality of remote and hybrid work. Post-pandemic, we have even more globally distributed teams, and even domestically, we have people that aren't all co-located anymore, and that can be a challenge in managing projects and work. Also, because of the fast-paced environment of change that we have in the marketplace with technology, et cetera, organizations are feeling the pressure to become more agile and responsive, and are trying to do things to make that so. Now, there's also cybersecurity. As we do things more in the cloud, there are always bad actors out there, and ensuring data security and increasing cyber threats is crucial. So we have to do things in a secure environment to make that happen. And then there's just the management of data, the large volumes of data that happen across work, across different business units. It can be overwhelming to pull that all together, right? It can be a large manual lift to bring that all together, but it's essential if we want to have good, comprehensive, reliable decision-making and decision support information at our fingertips. And then business process automation. We've talked about the fact that we need to streamline and automate repetitive tasks to save time, but also to help us work better together and not have gaps in that as we go through. But the automation piece also, is related to AI, and it's increasingly being integrated into our daily work. And we'll talk a little bit about AI today and some of the ways we can use it within this discipline. And then because of all these changes, the need for upskilling and continuous learning has never been higher. Companies are focusing on upskilling their workforce to keep up with technological advances, the changes that are going on within their organizations, process-wise and discipline-wise and capabilities-wise, meaning we have to leverage the things that are coming down the pike so that we can keep pace with our competitors. Now, on the collaborative side of things, Microsoft Teams is just used so prevalently out there. Most corporations out there today are Microsoft shops. And at its base, people use Microsoft Teams for chats and IM capabilities within that. And so just we can stay in touch with each other, both internal and external to our organizations. Meetings, we all use Teams in some regard for meetings and be able to collaborate with and without video and be able to display things and help mitigate that separation that we have by this remote and hybrid work that we have these days. And then calling features that allow us to just hit the phone icon and basically call somebody within our organization or somebody outside our organization if we're allowed to, just immediately without having to go to our phones. And then there's the whole thing of content management. The keeping of the files in different teams and channels and different ways that we categorize things allows us to maintain this content in a way that makes sense. And also the apps and the workflows. There's some simple capabilities with approvals app within Teams itself that allows us to do approval processes within these things, and also more advanced things you can do with workflows in Power Automate at Microsoft as well. So these things all come together, and if we layer in the whole idea of projects and work and bring that into the context of Teams, we can leverage those aspects in the context of all the previous capabilities that you see up there. So the idea is to make this a comprehensive hub for teamwork. Now, there's many apps in Teams for managing work, right? If you go out there and look at apps, you'll find a bunch of project management, task management apps, etc. It's almost mind-boggling, but the reality is different people are using different things. And that whole thing of data management that we said earlier on is real, and it creates silos and pockets of information within our organization. Now, what we're going to focus on today is the advent of Planner and Planner Premium, formerly Project for the Web, and OnePlan, because OnePlan is an available option as an authorized Microsoft Teams application. Now, Planner Premium, formerly Project for the Web, right, allows you in Teams to add a project plan into any team within Microsoft Teams, for example. And, you may just use it as a repository of project plan content. And on the back end, because it is built on the Power Platform, you might have any number of plans that you're putting together individually, and they're all being stored. This new Planner Premium, which Project for the Web is now being called, is being stored in a repository called Dataverse on the back end. Now, if you're just using Project for the Web, it's by default going to Dataverse where it's data storage, so you're not saving these things to files like we used to do with Microsoft Project Professional. And then that data is now available for us to do common reporting. So for example, there's some roll-up of the different projects that you're working on in your portfolio, maybe a timeline view, and then like lists of tasks that individual people are working on, etc. But at this point, it really is about basic collaborative project and work management, but not really the advanced features of time phase data on things like resource capacity planning and financials, etc., and some of the other things we're going to talk about later on. But for the needs of the folks that are just basically looking to collaborate on schedules, etc., and work, this is an advancement of what Microsoft is offering. Now, what else is needed in Teams, though? Well, that does not provide a complete and robust project portfolio management platform. So additional capabilities that we're going to talk about to manage strategy in your entire portfolio and all the things that are around that as people talk about all the full capability of portfolio management, we'll talk about how we can add that seamlessly with what's being provided by OnePlan. Now, OnePlan connects strategy to execution, meaning you have an entire portfolio of data in teams available to you, but you're not limited to Project for the Web or Planner Basic or Planner Premium. You can use other tools for execution to handle those pockets of information that you might have in the variety of tools that are out there. So instead of making everybody hand over the tools that they're using today and switch to something else, we can leverage the things that they're using today of the more popular tools that are out there, whether it be Microsoft Planner Basic, which is the original Planner application, or Premium, which is the former Project for the Web. But we can also, for those users who need the more robust scheduling capabilities that are in Project Professional on the desktop, there are connections to that too, so we can leverage that into the same portfolio of work. The same thing holds true with things like Azure DevOps and other tool sets that are non-Microsoft as well. So the key is mitigating that whole data management and distributed tools dilemma that many organizations have today. Now, OnePlan is an authorized Microsoft Teams application. So for example, if you go to add an app to your left navigation or left rail, as they often call it, it's available to you. You do have to be a subscriber to OnePlan to use it, but it is available to you as an authorized Teams application. And it ends up being something that you can have pervasive and persistent on your left rail navigation so that you can have full portfolio management capabilities available to you at any time within Teams. Now, OnePlan within an individual team, you can actually, select any team or channel that you have within within Teams, and then you can actually add OnePlan as an app to that team with the add tab capability that's up, that plus sign that you see in the tabs up above. And then you can add it from there and then ultimately access OnePlan from within that team, even specific to a specific project, for example, within that team. So the idea here is to use OnePlan in context of all the other collaborative things that you're doing within Teams, including content and collaboration. What kind of things are we adding? Why would you want to do that? Well, portfolio visibility across all work. Now, could you use, say, Project for the Web, Planner Premium, and say have it store in repository and just view some Power BI reports? You can do that, but the portfolio visibility across all work really means that whatever source of data, in this case you're seeing a bunch of icons for a bunch of different tools, each project could potentially be connected to data from a different source, a different project management, task management, execution tool that you might be using. And the idea here is to be able to bring that all together into a common hub, really extending the hub concept that Teams brings to the party. On the portfolio planning side of things, you may want to look at timelines, not on a task basis, but on a more detailed basis at the portfolio level, at those portfolio line items. Sure, you can drill in and go to the details of the individual schedules, but those portfolio plans at the high level is visibility you might want from a schedule basis and a variety of other views you might want. There's scenario modeling. People in this fast changing world want to evaluate alternatives when situations on the ground change. And so if that's the case, be able to look at a potential population of potential projects and projects that you might want to work on. We can look at the constraints we have around resources like we see here below, or financials, or other dimensions that you might want to look at to arrive at a portfolio that fits within our ability to deliver and aligns with our priorities. And the idea is to be able to do as many of those scenarios as you like without impacting the production data until you're ready. And then there's agile folks. Many folks are doing the agile execution, but also want more agile portfolio management. And so be able to work with things in boards and be able to do things like program increment planning is something that OnePlan brings to the party. Yes, Planner and Planner Premium brings a lot of detail from a board perspective at the execution level, but the portfolio level is where we're adding a lot of value, that top-down type of capability. And then the portfolio roadmaps, be able to look at that high-level portfolio and fashion real-time, self-generated roadmaps that can be, done in a variety of slices, aligned with certain key events that you have, swim lanes by different data elements you have. In this case, it's looking at it by business unit, or whatever other data, metadata you might have around your projects. It's all there for you. And then one of the keys I talked about is resource management and the time phase data intensity that entails. In this particular case, being able to look at a resource plan across all your projects and look where you're over and under allocated and resolve those things, or maybe even have visibility to this all the time so that it precludes you from purposely over allocating. Sometimes we over allocate because we don't have the visibility we need. And sometimes we burn out people because we blindly allocate things beyond their capacities. Financial planning, once again, heavy time phase data, and be able to have detailed cost categories, labor and non-labor alike, and be able to track different things like budgets and revised forecasts and actuals and compare them. And even things like forecasting revenue and benefits are all things that people want to do in mature portfolio management scenarios. And then time reporting, the timesheets is a gap, and we can provide that right within teams via OnePlan. We talked about syncing all the data from all those variety of tools that you might have out there. Well, if it all comes into a common hub and all those projects and plans and work elements are available then to you within OnePlan, you can now do comprehensive time reporting against those things. And let's just back up to a little more mature next step, which is really strategic alignment. Organizations now want to be able to make sure in the specter of strategic portfolio management to build strategic execution plans. Typically these days with OKRs, objectives and key results, be able to model those and then align our projects with those strategies and key results so that we can ensure always that we're working on the right things, or be able to modify those things as our priorities may change. As we say, things are rapidly changing in the marketplace. Ideation and requests, being able to have a place where there's a repository and a portal where anybody in your organization can come in and funnel in ideas, vote on them, chime in on comments and other things like that, and be able to capture things like the business case information and the costs and the benefits we anticipate, and put them through an approval cycle, and then ultimately have these things promoted upon approval into projects in your portfolio. And so the idea there is that we have end-to-end from the early ideation formulation all the way through processing it as a formal request, all the way through it becoming a plan or a project or an initiative that we actually work on, all the way through fruition. And then the other piece that's a little more advanced is, and not all do, is the enterprise and business architecture elements. As we look at things in this digital age, when we make digital transformation changes, it usually requires changes to products that we have, changes to business capabilities that we have, changes to applications that support those business capabilities that we have. And so just delivering on the project itself may be associated with our success in modifying or addressing a lot of other things. And if we don't have full visibility into that, we may miss some things and miss the mark in a lot of ways. Then once we have these associations and alignments, right, strategic alignment and association of strategies and key results that are aligned with which projects and which epics, which in turn might be aligned with products and applications and business capabilities, to be able to visualize that and drill into any one of these elements at any given point in time is something that's very powerful as you want to get into more collaborative and strategic portfolio and work management. Now, AI is here. It has been here since late 2022 when ChatGPT went public. And the OnePlan, made the move. Our domain name is oneplan.ai. This has been our passion since the very beginning of the formulation of the company. And we now have our assistant called Sophia GPT that is a game changer for strategic portfolio management because it is purpose-built for portfolio management. Meaning it not only leverages general knowledge that's out there in Microsoft's Azure OpenAI model, which has, the compliance and the security and that you would expect from the Microsoft cloud, not like out on the open internet, for example. It also has been trained not to learn from your data. It leverages the data that's public, but analyzes data in the tool that you have within OnePlan, for example, without learning or retaining it. It just uses it transactionally for that particular query or prompt. And it basically is an AI assistant that will allow us to do things like automate more and simplify certain tasks, data entry, estimation, analysis, etc. And the key there is that it's always available in OnePlan. So as a standard capability, whether you use OnePlan in Teams or in a browser, for example, it's always available to us so that we can actually, no matter what area of the tool we're in, we can actually query it and use it for the purposes of leveraging AI's specific capabilities to augment our own analysis capabilities and our human capabilities and extend beyond that. Now, what kind of use cases could we use AI for in portfolio management? Well, there's strategic planning, so we can help with optimizing strategic plans. Portfolio optimization with our project portfolios, right? We can help analyze those things, find out where things need our attention, and possibly streamline and automate that to maybe get them better aligned. There's the overall work management and building of schedules. There's risk assessment. There's resource allocation. There's investment and financial forecasting and analysis. These are just some of the things that we can do with it today, and it's going to continue to get better. And we're actually currently now working on more automated AI, meaning it will analyze things automatically and bring to your attention things that require your attention. So it'll become more autonomous and not just wait for you to ask it something. So with that, I thought I would open up a demonstration, and it's applicable that we'll start in Microsoft Teams. And here I thought I would just start with that whole concept of project for the web and what we talked about with that initial slide. In this particular case, software development in a general channel that we have here, we can take advantage of the posts and the files that are available to us and open up project for the web in here, because as we look at this, you can always go into the add tab and you could always add project for the web or planner into any particular tab within Teams. And in this particular case, we've added a schedule in here in project for the web planner premium called application development. And now it's available for me to work on right here within Teams, along with the files, with the posts, etc., and be able to work on it and collaborate on with our teammates within Teams based on the people you give access to this. And we can work with things like, simple grids like you see here, more like a spreadsheet. We can work with things with boards by different groupings, etc. But this is, once again, all at the task level, right, of what we're working with. We have, timelines, the traditional Gantt chart types of views that you can work with. You can drag and drop dependencies, etc. And there's some simple charting like you see here, like you used to see in Planner Basic. And then maybe even align the task, who's working on what, who's been allocated what, some goals that you might have, as well as overall assignments that you might have, and just be able to look at what's been assigned to who on a more granular basis, right, down at the individual task level. Ultimately, you can do this, and then if you want the aggregate of things across the portfolio, you can go in here and look at a project for the web report that may roll all that up for you, up into, based upon the fact that it's stored in the Dataverse and this data is all available. We can look at this information as a roll-up of projects that you may have here and where we're at on these different things, based on things like effort and task count, overdue tasks, etc. Be able to look at, say, maybe the high-level timeline in a very simplified fashion here, right? So once again, this gets us significant benefit, but for some folks, this isn't all the way what they need in order to make the things happen that they would like to see happen. Now, if I go into another team, this data warehouse migration, it has the same posts and chats that we would typically have. You might have a repository of files here for this particular data warehouse migration project, which might have folders and subfolders and project charters and scope and other documents around that, as well as a OneNote notebook for things like meeting minutes, etc. It looks like I don't have much in the way of detail here, but that's there. But you could also add OnePlan to any one of these teams, such that when you do add OnePlan, you get the full capabilities of that. In this particular case, since I'm in the specter of a specific team or project, OnePlan can be aligned with the specificity of this particular team rather than the overall portfolio. So in this particular case, I'm in this data warehouse migration project where things like the overall project details, a project phase or life cycle that we have to go through, the data and metadata on the way we categorize these projects and the settings we have for that project, maybe the business case narratives that we had come over from the ideas or requests themselves, the current status of things like how we prioritize this project and how we arrived at that score on a calculated basis, what the current project schedule is, what the financial current picture is, how we're doing on the utilization of resources and effort, the KPIs and how we're trending on those, et cetera, and even the current project status on those things. Now, this is a configurable form, meaning the data elements that are important to you would be in this, and you can put the sections and the data elements there that make the most sense to you, okay? Now, the other next piece that people would use at a minimum would be the work plans themselves, okay? And in the work plans, we have this concept of what we call work types. So for example, I'm in here looking at this schedule work type, right? And now I have a schedule that's been built in here. We could, to be quite frank, we could have built this from scratch, or we could have inserted a template. And for example, we could insert a template that is organization-wide templates that we might have in place. We might have our own personal templates. There may be online templates that you want to leverage. You could import from other sources, from say another OnePlan template or a CSV export from another tool. Or I'll show you an example here a little shortly where you could actually use AI to generate a plan template for you and build that for you so that you can use that as a starting point for building what's here. We can also connect with our integration platform in OnePlan called OneConnect that allows us, now these are the ones we've enabled in this environment, but a variety of popular planning tools are available to us out here to actually connect to be the source of data for this particular plan, and I'll show you that in a little bit later. But on top of the schedule, we also have things like a backlog work type. So if you're doing more agile type of planning, this type of work type might be more conducive to what you're doing. In this case, I've got requirements and user stories in here, and I might go in here and say, show me the show me the sprints that these things are associated to, and say which elements are associated with which sprints and what are my capacities, and am I over them on story points or hours, etc. So the idea there is that we have a work type that's conducive to agile things, and we can actually integrate with agile tools like Azure DevOps and Jira, etc. Now, the other elements that are come out of the box for you are issues and risks and changes and key decisions, but you can add your own. So you can add things like, lessons learned or assumptions or things like that people often add to these things into the mix. Now, ultimately, the things that you're not going to get out of the box in Teams and with Project for the Web or Planner Premium, as it's now called, is the resource planning on a time phase basis. So for example, we can do both top-down and bottoms-up resource planning. In this particular case, I'm looking at a grid that's planned out in hours, okay? And I can plan with generic roles, with teams, or with named specific individuals as I go through there. And as I go in here, I can actually go in and, for example, even do things like figure out, for example, on this generic business analyst, I might be able to look for best matches on who might be available to fill that role and who has availability in the green, that I could then say, let me replace that generic resource with a named individual. Or I could replace an overloaded individual resource with somebody that has more capacity. So once again, I can get more sane workloads to some of our more demanded on resources that are out there. So once again, we can do the planning from the top down, and I'll show you some more capabilities from the bottom up and comparisons when we get to the overall resource plan, because this is the context of a project resource plan within the context of an individual project, okay? Now, if we go to the financial plan here within the project, you can structure your cost categories any way you like. I've got labor and non-labor categories. Right now, I'm looking at, let me go to, get rid of the comparison in here. And I might have an overall, say, budget that I'm tracking to. But I also might have a revised forecast. I might have actuals. I might have benefits and or revenue that I'm tracking, et cetera. And as I come in here and I look at the budget, for example, and I say, let me compare that to what I have in the forecast area. Once again, I want to compare that the other way around. So now I can see where I budgeted a certain amount and my forecast comes in under. I'm in a green for that period, but here, for example, it looks like I didn't budget anything for January and I'm now forecast to spend $20,000 there, which is giving me some comparison that I need to deal with, right? So once again, detailed financial planning that's in here. And another key piece that's a big time utilizer is the creation of status reports. And many organizations are still manually creating these. In this particular case, we can actually create a format, or you can configure a format that allows you to set up the sections and the data elements you want it to pull in automatically. That gives you the current status of where things are at on things like timelines, trends, data points, related items like what tasks are in progress, what active issues or risks we are dealing with, et cetera. And then when it's created, it gives you place to put the current narrative in there each period that may be different from time to time. But instead of overriding this or appending it all the time, once you submit this and it gets approved, it now becomes part of a history that is snapshotted in there. So you get trending that's available to you and also the history that's available to you. And then OnePlan users can come in here and look at the status reports right here in the tool. Or if you're not a OnePlan user, you can put it out to people in PDF, Words, or just email it in the body of an email to people as they see fit. A big time saver when it comes to routinely creating these things during your reporting period. Now, those are some of the things that you might have in an individual project right here within Teams within using the OnePlan capabilities. Now, we talked about OnePlan being available to you here on the left navigation, right? And you can add it to your left rail, as it's often called. And if I go into here, because of the fact that I am a member of a lot of different OnePlan instances, it's going to ask me. Most organizations, you're probably only going to be the member of a singular OnePlan instance or OnePlan group, as we call it. But in this particular case, what it would bring you to is the larger portfolio management capabilities across multiple projects, not focused on an individual project. And in this particular case, you know, I've got the portfolio of data that's here, and we establish a hierarchy. Now, that what we call plan type hierarchy is your primary way you would want to look at this as an organization. In this case, I've got one or more portfolios. I've got programs within those portfolios, and within those programs, I might have projects and or epics that indicate maybe more waterfallish versus more agile projects in this particular definition as we're using it. But this plan type hierarchy would be structured in the way that you look at the world and the way you're organized, right? And as I look at this, I can see that I have a portfolio with a program within it, and then I've got the projects and epics within that particular program. And in this particular case, you'll see all these icons off to the left. Now, this indicates what these plans might be connected to. For example, this particular plan, this data warehouse migration that I showed you earlier on, individually in Teams, it's really only connected to a team site. And this says to me that we're doing all the planning right here within OnePlan itself, okay, without being connected to another execution tool. On the other hand, I've got this project for the web plan, you know, that is now connected, which is now called Planner Premium, but basically says that the execution data is coming from another tool set, right? Same thing might hold true for Microsoft Project Professional on the desktop, or Azure DevOps, or Jira, or Smartsheet, or Monday.com. So the idea there is that you're not limited to one execution tool if you still desire to have a holistic hub of a portfolio that has everything in it, right? And OnePlan enables that for you. Now, we have all kinds of summary views, right? I drilled into the one project already, so I won't do that again. But we do have a lot of different summary views. For example, we got different list views like you're looking at here, that this one's more focused on KPIs. You might have another one that's more focused on maybe the schedule or timeline aspect of things, right? As you're, looking at that, and you might go in here and look at the, the overall timelines that you have on that, right? And zoom into that accordingly. You might have a more of a prioritization view where you want to look at these things in the way that you prioritize things, right? And how we arrived at those prioritization scores. In this particular view, we've got more business drivers that we say, how well does it strategically align? Well, does it do extremely well, strong, moderate, low, none at all? Does it lower cost or improve employee morale? Does it provide risk reduction? And what we select in those gradations arrive at a calculated score. Very cool, and gives us some common way to value these projects and potential projects, right? We could go to a trending view where when I talked about the snapshots that made available in the status report capability that we have here, by snapshotting these pieces of data, we can trend things like the state of the project, the status trend, how we're doing on budget or active issues if the trending data is available. So once again, we can get all that information brought to us here. And then ultimately, the real flexibility in this comes from, unlimited amounts of metadata you can put around this. If I strip out of this, in this view, the primary hierarchy of those plan types that I showed you at the beginning, and we start with just a plain list of projects and epics that are in here, I can then choose to group it however I want. So for example, if I just want to group it, say, by business unit, right? And expand this out and look at how we're doing across the application business unit, capital planning business unit, et cetera, and summarize all that. If I want to look at it by the ways we categorize our project, and I want to understand, how we're doing on the business transformation versus the compliance projects and IT projects, et cetera, or even just by ownership, or maybe something like by who the executive sponsor is, right? And look at those things in those ways and be able to get those views in a variety of flexible ways that we would look at this, okay? The board views, as I talked about, is very simply, you can store as many board views as you like and save as many as you like. In this case, I'm looking at a board by state, so by proposed, active, or closed, or on hold. And then I can look here and see, for example, if this market research is red, even though you only hold so much information on a card here, I can very quickly go to the quick edit, and if I want to understand why this is red, I can drill in dynamically at any given point in time and basically see the information around that and see, for example, that it's the schedule that's off track that has me off track. It's like all the other dimensions are green on this, so it's really a schedule issue that I have on this. And the key here is that you can look at a variety of other things. For example, this one doesn't have swim lanes, but for example, if I looked at the goals by program board, so this is basically doing the columns and the swim lanes by two different dimensions. So now I've got the goals of customer satisfaction, grow the business, run the business, and then I've got the program of agile development and asset replacement and where those fit within those types of things. And I can use a variety of other mechanisms based on the metadata that I want to put in place there. And then once again, the roadmap views use a similar piece by leveraging the metadata. In this particular case, I'm showing this by business unit, but if you wanted to group or create the swim lanes by any other data element that you're capturing, that's all there for you as well. In our list views, if I go back there and I go back to this portfolio summary view that I had by our primary hierarchy, in this case it'll be, and let's just say I open up to the full breadth of this portfolio. Let me just give a shot at using Sophia for a moment live, because I have some other pre-canned things that I've done for you. For example, if I'm looking at this and the KPIs and the metrics that are in here, what if I wanted to ask it to do some analysis for me? In this particular case, I will ask it, which project needs the most corrective action and why? So as I give it that prompt, it's going to look at the data that's available to it in OnePlan. And once again, it's using the data along with its base knowledge it's been trained on, but not storing any or saving any of the data that it has. And it's basically telling me the market research project, which I actually drilled into on the red, under the product development, appears to be the one that needs the most help, and it gives us the rationale as to why it thinks that is. So once again, some assistance in navigating through large portfolios and helping us get to some information and data. And I'll show you some other examples about that later on. Now, as we go back to the whole idea of connecting to other tools, right? If I go back to this portfolio view and I go to a project here, like on this, this one's called Project for the Web. If I drilled into the work plan, and I can go directly into any aspect of any of these plans right here from the portfolio. And for this particular project, I showed you the capability or the potential of connecting to another tool. But in this particular case, I'm showing you an example here where this Project for the Web plan is actually integrated and it's actively connected to this project, meaning the data you see here in OnePlan in this schedule is coming from what's the current source of data within Project for the Web. Now, if I open this up, and once again, this whole branding of Project for the Web into Planner Premium is in transition. So you are going to see some artifacts once in a while because first of all, Project for the Web is only available, Planner Premium is only available in Teams right now. It'll be available generally in the browser later this year by Microsoft. But the idea here is now this is the Project for the Web plan that we're connected to, and our OneConnect tool has been configured such that it will automatically pick up changes that are in here and bring those back into OnePlan. So the data that you see in here is actually sourced from another place, but it's being displayed to you in OnePlan format and being rolled up into the overall portfolio and available for other things. For example, if I use another couple of examples and I say, let me switch to Microsoft Project Professional. I got a plan for Project Professional that's out there. Okay, this plan was actually sourced from Microsoft Project Professional. And if I look at the integrations, I can see that it's actively connected to Project Professional. Now, Project Professional is not a web tool. Project Online is, and we can connect to Project Online as well. But for people that are using individual Microsoft Project Professional plans or files, we can connect to those as well. So for example, here, this particular Microsoft project plan is basically what we're connected to in OnePlan. And this is the source. And as things change here, it'll update the data that's in OnePlan and roll that up appropriately into the portfolio level data that we need. And not unlike Project Online, it allows you to publish any data from here on demand. It allows you to receive updates that might happen from, updates that happen from OnePlan, for example, right? And the key here is that, you can work with this in any way that you like and use the tool that you need, especially if you have a lot of time and thought and effort invested into a comprehensive Microsoft project plan. So the idea here is that as you look at this information here is based upon what's in Project Professional. All right. Another Microsoft example, if I switch to this and I go to switch to a different plan, notice I'm switching right to the schedules without going back to the portfolio. So for example, if I have ones that I own or recent ones that I've used, I can get to them very quickly without having to do a lot of navigation. But let's say, for example, we're using Azure DevOps and we're doing Agile work in there and we're in the backlog of that's that I showed you. There's a backlog work type that's in there, right? And when we get to that backlog, it's a matter of when we're connected to Azure DevOps from this plan, we can actually go open it. What you see here is, in this case, we're tied to an Epic, which has its backlog items, its features, its user stories, its tasks in there. And here the next children levels are basically feature level things. But what you can do is not only is it synchronizing those elements or child items over into OnePlan, into the backlog, you can also, with our extensions, access the OnePlan capabilities like the portfolios and the resource plan, et cetera, right here from within Azure DevOps, even down to the detail level of what's in there, things that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to access within Azure DevOps. You can access those OnePlan capabilities right from within Azure DevOps so that your Azure DevOps users can avail themselves of these benefits without ever having to leave Azure DevOps. So once again, mitigating that whole challenge of silos of data, right? And be able to look at things like the details page, right, that we have in OnePlan. Look at the financials, right, that we might have in there, the resource plan, right? All those things that may not be available to you are now available to us to view from within the context of the Azure DevOps piece. And once again, we started all this from within Teams. So we could do the same thing. Given the interest of time, we can do the same thing with, say, Smartsheet, Monday.com, and Jira, and other popular tools out there. And it's just a matter of which tools you'd want to incorporate into the mix. Now, the overall resource plan capabilities, these are the ones that, I showed you a resource plan within an individual project, but the payback really comes. And instead of looking at hours like we did in the plan, let me just look at it in terms of full-time equivalents. And this is basically telling me very clearly at the roll-up of this from all those resource plans, that if I look at a developer and I see, I need basically 9 developers in April, but I only have 7. I need over 10 and a half, but I only have a capacity of 7. I've got to do some things to relieve this. And, my contention is this demo data is intentionally bad as far as over allocation goes. But if you have constant visibility to this, it precludes you from making such severe over allocations on an ongoing basis. Now, once again, as I look at this, I could say, let me look at this developer that I need and say, I got to put a name to this customer experience project. And once again, I can look for candidates here and find, say, a best match and see a resource like Steve McGarrett has bandwidth to take on the requirement here when it's needed based upon what's showing here in the resource plan. And I can just do that resource replacement right here. So once again, I can do that very succinctly in an overall capacity. We're not just looking at it from within an individual project by project basis. We can also look at this stuff from a bottoms up perspective. So once you do build schedules and if you resource load those plans, you could actually take this information and we go into developer and I can look at a specific resource, Jared Dunn, and this integration project that he has. These are the specific tasks he's assigned and how they're rolling up in these different months that roll up from a more of a bottoms up allocation that he has. And then you can also look at this from, if you're doing timesheets or actuals, you can actually look at the actuals that are available to you here. And let's just say I go into the engineering and I look at Daniel Williams, I can see he has time charged against these things. And I could also come in here and do that similar comparison I showed you before, like in the financial plan before, but in the resource plan here, I'm looking at maybe the timesheet versus what we had scheduled. And as I look at this, I can see, for example, I had planned no time for him in June, no time for him. I planned 5% of his time, 24% of his time in June, and he's only used 5% of his time, meaning I'm okay. Here, I planned 19% of his time in here, and he's charged 24%, a slight over allocation. He's in the yellow. So once again, we can keep track of how our burn is going according to what our assumptions and what our plans were. The strategy piece, let me just go in and take a look and say, as we look at the strategic part of it, we can set up hierarchies of objectives and key results that are in here, right? And as I drill into a specific objective, like improve IT infrastructure, we can establish the detail pages for the elements we want to capture, the parameters, the timelines we want for these things. And we also have the associated items in here. So for example, I have an associated key result, which is a tangible measure of that. I can come through here and actually look at, the metrics that we have on this and how we're doing on achieving this metric that's rolling up into that overall objective, right? And as we go through that, I can actually go in and look at, for example, a visualization of how this stuff is all related. And I can see the predecessors and successors I have on this, as well as an overall relationship of how this key result is tied to 3 different projects and epics, of which some are in the yellow, and there's also products and applications that are here that we have to deal with. So once again, the strategic alignment is here for you. Now, as we look at ideas and requests, this is an area that, everybody has a funnel of things that's coming in. And you can design how you want to track those. But as we drill into and we want to capture information regarding, specific requests, and we want to build business cases and categorize these things and put it through an approval process and give it some things like anticipated budget and benefits and prioritization parameters. So it comes up with a prioritization score. Those types of things are available to us right from within here. And as we look at this, we can vote on them. We can put those priorities in place, etc. And we can even use, Sophia in here if we wanted to help us determine, for example, like we asked before, what 3, for example, should we approve first based on our priorities and return on investment and the voting sentiment that's out there. So once again, that's something that's all there. And probably the last two things I'll cover really briefly is the modeler. And the modeler allows me to create different what-if scenarios. In this case, I've got the IT 2024 project planning, and I have 43 potential things that I wanted to consider. Now, given that, if I look at say the resources or the financials around it, I can see down below here that I have a lot of red, meaning I probably can't do all of this reasonably given the resource requirements that we have in there. And I can do different scenarios in here whereby if I only had a $10 million budget, say for example, I could come in here and take a look at this and say, if I only had that financials, I could actually do 17 of these things. It looks like I'm mostly green. I could do it from a resource perspective, and I can do it also from a financial perspective overall to fit within an overall $10 million budget range. And I can also look and then compare different scenarios that I might have as far as, which one might be the best scenario that meets my targets. Or being able to look at these things from an overall, what we consider, bubble chart, prioritization mechanism, where I could see here's the things we selected, where do they fit from a prioritization and benefits perspective, as well as look at the things we didn't select and see if there's things we should reconsider. And our visualizer kind of helps us do a similar thing, where I can come in here and I look at the visualizer and I can see what did we select and what predecessor successors do we have that weren't selected? Should we reconsider? And then based upon the overall runway, are there things that are needed to meet certain objectives that we aren't considering doing? So once again, we can analyze this without impacting the overall production data. And very simply, I'll just touch on things like our timesheet that allows you to report time on the elements regardless of whether or not it's coming from Project for the Web, Project Desktop, Azure DevOps, Jira, wherever it's coming from, OnePlan itself. You can charge time on these things and have a comprehensive singular timesheet right within your PPM solution, right here within Teams. And I would say this, the insights that you can get of an individual user looking at the things that require their attention, giving them easy access to the things that require their attention, et cetera, are things that we can do right within here, including conversation threads, et cetera. So with that, let me just move on to a couple of other things here about different scenarios we might use within OnePlan. I mean, there's the strategic planning piece. We can have it suggest some OKRs for us to use. We can, have it create those. We can have it analyze our strategy where it wants to make sense to do so. We can enable portfolio optimization with OnePlan, so we can actually provide a summary of the data to see where things are off track and then suggest some optimization pieces that are in there. I'm going through these and I'm going to show you a couple of examples because we are running close to the top of the hour. But with the work management piece that I think is the core of what most people want to do, and the other stuff is things that some people want to do, is say things like business case definition and be able to come in here and ask it, write me a business case based on the data that I have in here, and let me use that data to put the business case in so that I don't have to formulate this stuff from scratch. Now, yes, I can put my own, spin on these things and my own edits and my own tweaks on that, but the idea is I'm not doing any of this from ground zero. So, as I go in here and look at the business case and the value statements that are in here, it's creating them for me. Right? And it's going to allow me to put those and copy those into the business case area within OnePlan. The cool part here, I'm thinking about, what about having it build a schedule? So I've got a plan here called the Smart Home Automation System. I've actually got the fundamentals of it here that I'm going to build. So I'm just going to put a new project in OnePlan. I'm going to add the plan. So it's here, and I've got just the basics as far as data associated with this. And then I'm going to ask it, going into the templates area that I showed you earlier on, I'm going to not use one of the existing templates, but I'm going to use the AI to create a schedule for this. And based upon the data that's in there, it's built me a schedule or a work breakdown structure for the smart home automation. And I can actually keep that. I can map it to the resources that I have in OnePlan. And then I can actually insert that template as the starting point for my schedule, and then add things in it like my dates and durations and things that might be particular to me and who I want to assign to that. but once again, I haven't started from scratch. And this might be very helpful in something I haven't done before that I don't already have templated. Risk identification, identifying risks of a particular project type. Be able to help with capacity plan and provide a sample resource plan. What resources do I need to hire? When it looks at the overall resource capacity plan, what do I need? Where am I short? What do I need to hire or contract in order to fulfill this plan as it currently exists? And the same thing holds true with financial analysis and communication on writing things like emails to your manager with summary data. So once again, given more time, we're going to cover this a little more next week as well. But the key here is that we're all tied together via OneConnect and OnePlan. So all these connections we talked about today are out-of-the-box connectors that are ready for you to enable. So summary and next steps. Microsoft Teams is a powerful hub for collaboration. There are many Teams apps for work management, but OnePlan brings powerful portfolio management capabilities to Teams, and it provides a variety of solution templates for customer needs. It can be implemented in Teams as a robust portfolio management solution or just a simple collaborative project and work management capabilities that brings those different silos together. And OnePlan integrates with other work execution tools and with Teams for content and collaboration and supports all the methodologies that you might be using. Now, we're recognized for this. We're 5 consecutive years either as Microsoft's Project and Portfolio Management Partner of the Year or finalist for that award. And we're also recognized by the major analysts like Gartner, Forrester, and Infotech Research for these types of. Check out our free trials. The Strategic Portfolio Management template is the one that has all the capabilities in it, but collaborative work management, if that's what you're interested in, there's a template for that as well. And we're happy to chaperone you and give you assistance to get the most out of your trial experience. Free offers. Do the trial. We're happy to have a conversation or a workshop with you to understand what it would take to get you from where you're at to where you'd like to be. Or if you want just a more detailed demo rather than just this high-level one I did today, just reach out to contact@oneplan.ai or do more research at www.oneplan.ai. At OnePlan, this whole idea of hubs, both Teams and what OnePlan does to bring portfolio and project execution data into one hub, we call that the power of one. Have a great day.